Yo, 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 welcome back to White Dads Can't Jump. This is Kevin, the main man, Chad, and a special guest tonight. Chad, who we got tonight?
We have coming to us from YouTube and his nearly 46,000 subscribers. We have Theme Park Brandon joining us tonight. So we want to welcome him to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. This will be a lot of fun. And let's get into this.
Yeah, let's do it. So I have only a fraction of the knowledge and the background that Chad has, and obviously that you do. I want to start with Epic. So I watched your video on Epic. Tell me more. You kept saying that you wanted more. Have you been back?
I have not. No, I unfortunately live around 8 hours away.
Okay.
And due to it costing like $180 to get in, that's just, going back multiple times, the wife would kill me.
Right.
I would do it if I was closer for sure. But just the sense of, I guess, incompleteness. I mean, maybe it because it was it's not too often that we see a brand new theme park get built ground up.
Yeah.
And so how the detail of everything from the queue lines, from the exits, from obviously the portals, the bathrooms. I mean, every little, like no stone was left unturned. It was just amazing feeling. And I read everything except Ministry, and I feel like I just want more. And it's just the weirdest, almost surreal feeling of like I crave. And I've heard from many people way before when they had the past member previews and the team member previews of it's just like the Epic effect. Like you just feel it. Like you just want to go back and you crave more and more and more. So it's definitely a crazy feeling. I've never had it before, but
That's awesome.
I'll bring the family back down in February, I think, once things die down a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully by that time they'll include an annual pass with Epic. So it'll be a little bit more reasonable on the wallet, but definitely a great park.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for, is them to add it to the annual pass, because I have the Premier Pass, and I went for pass holder preview, and it was still kind of running at, I guess, a quarter capacity, and there was some bugs and some rides weren't working, so we definitely want to get back to it. The scale and scope was incredible. The theming was amazing. Some of the rides left me a little underwhelmed. Honestly, I think some of the other Universal rides are superior. So I think Velocicoaster is still better than Star Duster or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I could see that. I think I like Velocicoaster, but it's close. The only I wasn't really too impressed with, like, I like Donkey Kong. That surprised me. The Super Mario Bowser's Challenge, whatever it is, it's okay.
I thought the line for Mario Kart was better than the ride.
Exactly. The line is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I like Hiccups. The other Monsters was fantastic, but I get it. There are some rides where I feel like, I think Universal spent almost, I wouldn't say too much money on the big three: Stardust, Ministry, and what's it called, Monsters. But I wish they would have added like another, like they beefed up their mid-tier rides, or the lower tiers just a little bit higher, if it make it more balanced. As far as, there are certain rides there I feel like, well, that's more like a filler ride. You can just tell they just needed something, and we can't be too picky, so I get it, and there is a budget. But like Islands of Adventure was different, because when that park opened up, every attraction was like top notch, because they didn't have, I don't think they had the little teacup ride next to the Hawk Storm Force. They didn't have Flight of the Hippogriff back then. They just had all the big time stuff. But I get it. It's definitely a lot more money was spent on the actual portals and stuff in Celestial Park than the park itself. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see where they go. I mean, they have the expansion pads ready to go whenever the budget comes in for that. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But
for sure,
we'll stay away for a while, I think, and just stick to the other two.
While we're on Universal, though, I also saw the video Ghostbusters. What's the probability of this being Ghostbusters?
That's exciting.
Wow, yeah. I think Fast and Furious would be a cool roller coaster fit for that park. Yeah. But I'm all for Ghostbusters. Like,
that's New my York son and I. He loves them.
Yeah, it'll be really, really cool. And if it's the same type of ride vehicle that Hollywood has for their Intamin multi-launch coaster, that's themed to Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
that'll be even better, because it'll really kind of, they can stand out more than Velocicoaster because the trains kind of spin a little bit. It's not just the same style of ride. So.
Yeah, I saw it today, actually. I think it was on a Reddit post that on one of the construction walls, they had an update on that they were improving the Fire Engine 89 or whatever it's called there where the Ghostbusters show used to be. So obviously they're dropping some Easter eggs there. So hopefully they come through.
I'm excited. And I think there will be rapid construction on that. I think they're going to get that ride up as soon as they have to. I mean, USF it's a good park, but it's a special events park. Like that's when it really shines. So for them to add a ride of this magnitude, that's really going to sell the 3-day tickets, the park to park even more for the non-Harry Potter fans even. And I can't wait, especially by that time I'll be an annual pass holder again, and it'll be like, take my money, Universal.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing, and you made a video about this too, and it's baffling to me that they have Back to the Future IP. They have the 88 miles an hour. How we don't have a launch coaster that starts at 88 miles? It's baffling to me. It's
and there's
shocking.
So many, I would love to see that Back to the Future coaster, and I would love to see Jaws get brought back in some fashion.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if they can pull that. And Universal's on a roll right now. I think anything they do, they can really excel with it and make it successful. So we'll see. I love it. I think it's definitely a fun time to be a Universal fan, especially with all the turmoil in other parks that are non-Florida parks. Like Cedar Point, Top Thrill 2 issues, King of the Kai getting removed, and other parks and stuff. It's nice to see some big time investment and consistency down in the USF and Iowa and Epic.
Yeah, well, before we get into some of those other parks and ideas, let's talk about you for a second. So you obviously have the YouTube channel, and if people aren't familiar with it, you design your own rides in some situations. You have some insider information. How did you get into this? What was your first kind of moment of coaster love, and then how you pursued it to this capacity?
Yeah, so I've always been obsessed with coasters ever since I was a little kid, probably 4 or 5 years old. And I started doing school. I'd rather just draw roller coasters in school. I know you guys are teachers, I think. So I was that kid just doodling away. And I
doodle too, don't worry.
Yeah, I struggled in school. Maybe I didn't have you guys as my teacher. That's probably why. But then it just kind of, back then there was no social media. I'm 42 years old, right? So I graduated 2002 out of high school. And then I remember 2000, 2001, whatever it was, that there's other people. No, I'm sorry. When I got a job at Kings Island in 2004, that's when I realized there's a lot more people like me, because I met some friends who went out and did roller coaster trips. And then we ended up doing a bunch of stuff and that really expanded my reach to going to other parks. And so I've always been obsessed with it and always worked in the parks for 8 years, worked at Universal, SeaWorld, Six Flags New England, and Kings Island. And then COVID happened in 2020. I got out of the industry per se from 2014 until 2020 when COVID happened. As I was up here in Charlotte, and Carrier once was closed, no sports, stuck with a 1-year-old and a wife. I got to do something. I actually had a website, travel website for Florida called Florida's Top Recommended, where I businesses would advertise on, but then everything just shut down, and I'm not the type of person to call someone and say, hey, pay me $200 a year to be on my website, because we didn't know what was happening the first month of COVID. So I can't do that in my heart. I couldn't do it. So I'm like, well, I have all these coaster studios, Airtime Thrills, El Toro Ryan, all these other people, they do it. Why can't I? So I was like, I have to find a niche to go fast and to work my butt off to get there quicker so I get monetized, so the wife can understand this can be full-time income. Give me a few years, I'm also a stay-at-home dad, so we didn't have daycare, which saves a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's where the theme park predictions really saved me, because it was so different and unique, where I was able to get a lot of subscribers quickly and the views to get monetized. And then as I made other videos that were not just predictions, and I'm like, okay, I need to find my niche where is my recommendation videos are my favorite ones to make, where I can help people have a better day in the park. And I just don't want the name Theme Park Predictions to be, why do I want to trust this guy to have the best day at Universal if he just does predictions? So it just kind of made it to a point where what's the best. So then now I'm here. So It's been a great passion of mine to have it with my family and to share with my kids, and then mainly to share with others. I love hearing other people talk about stuff that I've been talking about for years. For almost 40 years now, really.
Right.
So do your kids go on the rides? How old are your
Oh
kids?
yeah, 6 and 2.
Oh, okay.
They love it. My son Mason has around 60 credits, and then my daughter Taylor has 2. So, but she's only 2. So
Yeah.
she'll get more. We're about to go on a road trip here in a few weeks, and she'll probably get 4 or 5 other new ones. So that'll be
She's
fun.
fighting the you have to be this tall to ride this ride right now.
She just turned 36, so
Yeah.
my father hopes and dreams are come late fall. She'll be 39. So when we go back to Dollywood for their seasonal events in the fall, she'll be able to ride Big Bear Mountain, Dragonflyer, and Fire Chaser Express. But she has no fear. She
Awesome.
will ride that stuff like no other business.
Okay, so then actually I want to stop you right there. You caught my attention at Dollywood. I've never been. I'm captivated by the idea. I have an 8 and a 6-year-old. So are they the optimal age for that? It sounds like maybe.
Yeah. Dollywood is fantastic because they have the rides that are, they have one ride over 48 inches tall. I think it's Wild Eagle at 50 or 51 inches. Other than that, everything else is 48. And then you have the 3 big ones are 39 inches: Dragonflyer, Big Bear Mountain, and Fire Chaser Express. And these 3 are all top tier family coasters.
Wow.
Not as good as Hagrid's, obviously, but like,
yeah, you're gonna be hard to press this top that one.
I mean, I would take every one of those except Dragonflyer over Hiccups at Epic personally. But that, yeah, they would love it, from the food, the rides, the nature, the setting of the park. They would really get a kick out of it. I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic. It's one of my favorite top 5 parks for sure.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. It's strong recommendation.
Because growing up in northwestern PA, I always went to Cedar Point. We were season pass holders from probably 95 up until like 2014 when I moved down here. And when we went there, like you always hear, like, that's the best place. That's the best place. So we never went anywhere else because it was like, well, we got the best place closest to us, so we're not going to venture. So I never went to Dollywood either. And I've always heard great things about it. And it always pops up on those top places to go to lists. So I think that's definitely something that's worth on a kind of a road trip.
And it is. And to your defense, back then, I think we're all near the same age. Dollywood really wasn't anything when we were growing up. It didn't start excelling until 2004 when Thunderhead was built, then Mystery Mine 2008, I believe, then Wild Eagle 2011. Then they progressed really rapidly. So that's wise. I was telling my wife the other night, like, I never wanted to go to Dollywood back until they built Thunderhead. Then I'm like, I got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was, it's one of those things that you mentioned, kind of the explosion of the theme park industry. Because prior to, I remember Cedar Point when Magnum came out. I was 8 years old when that came out and going on that. Yeah. And then, they put in some record breaker every year. And then you had Magic Mountain on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And then kind of these East Coast parks were more regional and they didn't really have kind of that marquee ride. And then it kind of just exploded. At Cedar Fair, acquired quite a few of them. So I think they put their stamp on a lot of them. And then obviously Six Flags was kind of always in the background, kind of doing their thing. So it's just kind of interesting that what caused it, the explosion, just the access to the internet, knowledge, people learning more things about it.
I think so. I think that's a big piece of it. And I think it's just a matter of the rides are so much better now. They're more enjoyable. They're smoother. Aerodynamics, as much as I loved some aerodynamics coasters, a lot of them are janky. Now you have like rides where you can get off and think, oh my God, that was so much fun. I want to go back and re-ride it. So I think technology, as far as the internet goes, plus the rides are, much better engineered, and the theming aspects of it. Then you could even say, the season passes are better value, I guess, now. Like we have the meal plans for Carowinds. So if I don't feel like cooking one night, we're going to go to Carowinds for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Get on some rides,
get on
free ices and get out of there.
Yeah, it's funny you say, because I used to live in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So I was only about 25 minutes from Doswell to go to King's Dominion. So I would do the same kind of thing. I wouldn't go there to eat, but I would just pop down in the evening, because on the weekdays in the summer, that place is a ghost town anyway. You can walk on most things. So it's a nice kind of hang out and go. And like to your point, I think the season passes are incredibly affordable, especially for those regional parks.
I think they're too affordable, if you ask me, just because when you look at the value that you get, and like I remember like Kings Island, I'm a big brochure guy back when there was brochures years ago.
Yeah.
And I would always find brochures. I'm like Kings Island's new brochure, 1999 drop tower or drop zone and face off for opening at Kings Island. Buy your 1999 season pass for $99.
Yeah.
Then fast forward 25 years later, it's the same price. I don't understand. But then obviously your employees are making 3 times as much. When I worked at Kings Island, I was getting paid like $6.50 an hour. Now it's like 15, 16, whatever. It's crazy.
Kings Island unaffected by inflation.
I know, seriously. So it's just crazy, like where things have gone and stuff. But it'll be interesting to see where the future goes and everything else, especially with like Epic. The new standard of theme parks. What parks are gonna stay around? What parks are gonna close? I mean, I'm personally excited for the future. I think we just have to get to the next, this merger is everything. So we have to get the next few years of that to figure out how that's going to play out and who's going to run the company, Six Flags or Cedar Fair, who's make the investors happy. There's a lot of pieces to that. I don't think people realize how many pieces are there that affect what that company is doing. So it'll be kind of curious as to I'm ready to make a video about anything, as long as there's news, I'll be sharing my thoughts.
Yeah, well, because I mean, they obviously steer the industry, Six Flags and Cedar Fair, so it's
the regional
kind of the
100%.
the trickle down.
Six Flags, everyone knows the name now. So I mean, at this point, I'm ready for them just to slap the name on the parks, Six Flags. I don't care anymore. Just make the parks a fit better, overall. And at least the Six Flags parks, the legacy ones, make them more ran like a Cedar Fair, if you will.
Yeah, because that's one thing I wanted to ask you about is that you see, I mean, I'm on Reddit or Facebook on some coaster fan pages and whatnot, and it's a weird mix because obviously your older rides are starting to age out because like we mentioned Magnum, I mean, that came out in 89, so we're at 36 years this summer.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I don't know how much longer that's got in it. And then even new rides, you have Ministry at Epic is in and out of operation. So you kind of have this sweet spot of this in-between era, and these older and newer rides, you can't really trust their productivity. So it puts us in a weird spot and going forward of, we're going to be replacing all these old rides with new rides that might not work.
That's exactly like Great Adventure. They removed Keen to Ka, and now the rumor is they're building a record-breaking 400-foot tall Mock Rides Extreme Spinner, and Mock Ride's tallest coaster to date's like 230 feet, and their tallest Extreme Spinner is like 115 feet and like 55 miles an hour. We all know if the ride's going to travel 400 feet up, it needs to travel over 100 miles an hour. Doing this with spinning seats, like
I won't be the first one in line.
I would love it, right? My thing is like they need to be a lot more conservative than what they're doing because you have to be careful. Look at the fiasco with Top Thrill 2, right? Mm-hmm. It was down for 3 days over the weekend. There was reports, and I've heard multiple people tell me who work at the park, it doesn't look good. There's issues. It might be going to an extended delay, and thank God it got up today. But there's going to be more downtime. It's just when you go with Zamperla for that magnitude of a project, you have to like understand that there's consequences. You can't just expect them to pull this off smoothly.
Well, I think that's to your point with the mergers and private equity, because I know that's what's happened with Busch Gardens SeaWorld is that they got bought out and they're not run by the Busch family any longer. I don't know how long they were, but I know when private equity gets involved, I mean, Kevin's a finance guy. He knows he can give us some more insight, but then
all I have to say is Toys R Us.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen to Cedar Point is you're going to have the Spirit Halloween sign out in front of it pretty soon.
They got to get their act together. And I just wish that, I could help them in some way or, I'm not an expert by all means, but I guarantee you if I was put in charge of a park or a region of a parks, they would have a lot more common sense than they do now for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I think is it a situation that it's, I know because when Cedar Fair was, or when Cedar Point was the flagship, their offices were in Cedar Point. So, I mean, obviously they're walking through the park, they're talking to people. I mean, I guess there's kind of the distance that exists now that the people aren't on the ground, so to speak, and they're not experiencing the park like they used to.
I think that could be it as well, because right now part of corporate, certain departments are still in Sandusky, but most of it's here in Charlotte. I just, after working in the parks for 8 years and knowing people, I still have tons of, like, I'm friends with 3 regional park presidents at the Six Flags chain that are in charge of multiple parks. And I worked for 2 of them, and I worked with another one of them. So it's pretty cool. But I just know, like, not them per se, but there's so much, just like any other job out there, there's so much politics involved and just ridiculous and lazy people. And, there's just a lot of things that should be cleaned up and changed, because, there's no, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a bad park. There's such thing as a park that's not operated very well. And with some little bit of love and care and staffing, and guest communication goes a long way, and make sure your employees are happy. As a father, like, I hate, because I'm still a ride operator at heart. Whenever I go to a ride, I see this person walking so slow. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go out there and just lap them. Like, get me out. I'll check restraints. I don't need training. Let's go. All clear. Get them out. This is ridiculous. But
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I feel like there used to be some pride in that. I remember sitting on Millennium Force, and those people would be flying out trying to get people out the door, or people get that turnover going on. And now I have a Busch Gardens pass, but I don't go anymore just because it's kind of
horrible.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. People are saying you sit 5 minutes on the train; they only run one train at a time. So, I mean, I haven't gone back since Christmas Town, just because I don't want to deal with the nonsense
I don't
there.
blame you. I mean, it's just unfortunate, but hopefully, I think a lot of it too is the guests are dumber now. And I mean that in all due respect, that when they're in line, when we all grew up in parks, right? When Cedar Point was the capacity park of the best park capacity, whatever, the lines moved constantly. Back then, we didn't have these, we didn't have these.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, we're just constantly zoned in our phones while these operators are trying to talk to us.
Right.
We're not focusing on them. And that's when you have the hiccups or that plus, I hate to say it, but it's true, where you have the guests who aren't able to fit on the rides.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to take the time to do the test seat. Then they go there and they try, and it takes a minute or two to try to get this person locked in. There's a lot of variables to it. It's just unfortunate, because I'm just like, come on. When I worked at Kings Island, we call those happy birthdays. We'd actually call it out before, happy birthday, row 2. They just knew that person wasn't going to fit, or they would. Because I worked on the Beast at Kings Island. That was a PTC lap bar, and I've seen some nasty things, more than nasty. And I'm not saying overweight people are nasty, but it was nasty what they did. What they would do is they had their friend hold their belly fat up while they pulled the restraint down, and then they laid their fat back on the restraint. I'm just like, I was only 21 at the time. Something like, what the F is going on here? I have to check that lap bar still.
Oh, no.
You find it in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I hope you had seniority at that point, so you make somebody else check it.
No, I was just a crazy line team member, but it was good though. I definitely had fun for sure.
That's amazing. Okay, so do I have this correct? I'm from Kansas City. So what's about 3.5 hours away from Kansas City, and I believe it is your favorite theme park. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep, Six Flags St. Louis. It's fantastic.
No, Silver Dollar City.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, Epic is up there with the newness of Epic, but there's something about Silver Dollar City with the clientele or the workers, where it just feels so much more like mountainy, and the
yeah, absolutely,
and the hospitality, like, I love it, and the rides are great, the food's fantastic, the whole setting of the park, with the marble cave underneath,
it also has the arc of Dollywood, because when I was growing up, if you were there 35 years ago, you could hear the banjos as you were coming down the little 2-lane highway to get into Branson
That's
when you
cool.
were going to Silver Dollar City. And if you would not go back and say, I went to Silver Dollar City for the weekend, you would just say, we went to the lake.
Yeah.
Like, none of your friends are impressed that you went to Silver Dollar City. But I do believe that it has ramped up and gotten better through the years, because it
100%.
is an institution in that neck of the woods.
And really, Hershey Entertainment is, I would say, my favorite theme park operator, just by their values, the way they operate their parks. And these parks are packed. They make a ton of money. They don't sell alcohol, which is even crazier.
It really crazy.
Yeah, that's the killer. People getting drunk all the time.
Imagine like how much more money they'd be making if they wanted to, And I'm all for, spending $15 on a beer maybe once every 2 months, type of thing. Hey,
Right.
like, it's respectful of what they do and how they do it, for sure.
So what other parks do they operate and own then?
So they just acquired Kennywood out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then Adventureland in Iowa, which is a really cool park. Lake Compounds in Bristol, Connecticut, and a few other parks. And then they own, I think they manage and lease Kentucky Kingdom, and then they own or they manage Wild Adventures in Valdosta, Georgia. Then obviously the two main ones would be Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, but they do own the Adventureland now, Lake Compounds, Kennywood. So I'm really excited to see what they do with those going forward, for sure. Especially Adventureland. That park has a lot of room around it, and not that the Des Moines, Iowa is a growing metropolis or nothing, but there's a lot of things they could do with that park if they wanted to.
For all 3 months a year they get to operate it, I mean, there's really a lot they can do.
You're not lying.
Yeah, the one thing I feel like new parks are missing are the smaller rides. Like, I grew up in Erie, PA, so you're familiar with Waldemere, I assume. So Waldemere, obviously, when you grow up there, kind of like Silver Dollar, you don't get excited to go to Waldemere because it's basically just a carnival that doesn't move. That's what we used to call it. But now, when you're older and you go to parks and they don't have those fun little spinny rides or even chair swings, like I love chair swings, and I feel like that's a dying ride at any park. I don't know if there's chair swings in Florida, but I get sad every time I see Cedar Point pulling something out. Like, I was really sad when Witch's Wheel went away. Like, those little rides, I really enjoy those, and it's sad that those are kind of going away and making room for kind of these bigger rides, and we're losing those kind of fun little spinners.
It's true. It is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously those aren't driving the numbers, but those are fun little kind of people fillers when you don't want to wait 2 hours for something else.
Yeah, the classicness about it too makes it just even better. That's why I love Knoebels or even Kennywood. They preserve a lot of those rides, and it feels a lot of nostalgia is there and stuff.
Well, I think too with the workers, when you have those parks, they grew up going there, so they feel a sense of ownership of it, so they kind of care for it a little bit more than when you have. I mean, obviously, like at Disney, we have so many transplants. University of Transplants is kind of just a job for them, or they think it's going to be this dream job, and then they get the reality check, and then
exactly, and that's why I tell my friends Carowinds just had a bunch of layoffs, unfortunately, with the new merger and stuff, and you guys get paid to make people have fun. That's why I love that job. It's the best job in the world because people go there to relieve stress, to get away from life. Whether you're operating a ride or taking tickets or whatever it is, it's really cool. And so, people will, there's other jobs out there, but I will never underestimate the impact working in a park did for me. My personality alone, because before that, I was shy. I didn't talk to anyone. I had no confidence. I wasn't talking to girls, nothing. And then I worked at Kings Island, and everything changed. So
that needs to be their marketing. Put that on the brochure.
Yeah.
Please tell me you met your wife there.
I met her at so I moved to Six Flags New England to do an internship up there, and I worked there for 2 seasons. The second year, 2007, I met her on MySpace of all places back then.
Oh, man.
And then we dated for 5 months. I was 24, she was 21, and she was still in college. And it's just one of those things of, I didn't like it up there. I'm like, I'm moving. I'm sorry. I broke up with her. and then we remained in contact for like 3 years. Like we saw other people and stuff, and then we reconnected in 2011, 2012 ish, and then she moved down to Florida, and then we dated, and then we moved to Charlotte, got married in 2017. Now we have 2 kids, and she's still around. So she's a closet enthusiast as well. She'll never tell you that she likes roller coasters, but the way she screams on them and talks about them, she's whew, not as much as me, but it's pretty cool.
When are
So
we going to
when you see a new ride come out now, obviously too, I mean, launch coasters are all the rage. Do you miss or do you enjoy the old clickety
I
lift
do,
hill?
yeah. I love it. Something about that. I've always, whether it's a classic wooden coaster, classic steel, whatever it is, like I love it. I like launch coasters as well, so I'm just glad there's a mixture. Obviously, Universal is completely foregoing the fact that they probably will never use a chain lift coaster again due to capacity reasons, unless it's like a cable lift, or it's a very short lift. But I like it. I like both, but yeah, I miss the old. I miss smelling the oil, the grease. Like
Yeah.
wooden coaster smell. Like
there's a little
love
bit of danger mixed up in that.
yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. You get a little bit of that rollback before it clicks in.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's that? That's not
Or
right.
with the
Iron
train-
Gwazi does that at the top.
Does it?
Yeah, when you get to the very top of Iron Gwazi, you roll back very slightly before you go over the hill after the chain releases you. It's a little unsettling.
I love Gwazi though.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, one of my core memories, again, I keep bringing up Magnum, but when we used to stay at the breakers there and you'd hear that chain lift everywhere.
Oh,
and it's just one of those like.
I could hear from Charlotte when it's
That's right.
good old Aerodyne. And even Kings Island for me, because I grew up going to Kings Island more so than Cedar Point, but for Vortex. As soon as you turn the corner around Beast and around Coney Mall, you just hear, in the background, clink, 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 clink. It's like, oh, we're getting close.
Yeah, well, Carowinds, they had the Fury 325. They had the crack on the pillar.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
That was a nightmare. I mean, as a GP, yeah, it is. But I talked to the head of maintenance there, and I was like, Steve, his name's Steve Jackson. He's no longer there. They forced him into retirement. He's pretty older. He was like, honestly, Brandon, this ride, B&M over engineers these rides where this coaster can operate safely with 1/3 less supports than what you see right now.
Oh,
it was still, but they just make sure it's overly engineered.
I'm okay with that.
So while we could have ran it the way it was, we wanted to make sure it looks good as the GP, and it makes sense. So, but yeah, definitely, a little bit alarming. I mean, I would have, ridden it just because, whatever, right? Keep riding coasters.
So where are the coasters going? How high can we go? Because I know what King Dakar was 425, 430.
456.
Okay, so can we go higher than that?
I mean, yeah, of course. It's just a matter about the money and the park and what guests will ride. I think I worry more about speed than I do height. The speed on the wheels. Like, I could see a 800-foot tall coaster, but somehow, some way, halfway down, it might hit some trim so that it doesn't, go over speed. I don't know. I mean, it just, to me, it's more or less what parks have the room, the financial backing to do something like that. Because, Millennium Force was what, 310, cost 25 mil. Fury cost 35 million, I believe it was. Like, that was 2015. You're gonna have to spend. I mean, I would love to know how much Falcon's flight cost over at Six Flags Qiddiya. That's intimate. That's major height. I think 5 something. I forget.
Yeah, that's the one that goes down a ravine, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's wild. So, like, unless you have like natural settings where you can build off of, cliff or a mountain.
Yeah.
Dollywood could do it. They have the mountains there, but I don't think Dollywood would spend the money or want the eyesore of a 500 or 600-foot tall coaster standing above the park. I personally would love the ride, but not at Dollywood. It kind of take away from the setting. Though seeing all the mountains around it would be legit cool.
That would be very cool.
See, I think there's definitely records to be broken, but I think right now with the main companies that are going to be breaking records, honestly, are just Six Flags now. Because now that Six Flags and Cedar Fair merged, it's all one company. I don't see Universal trying to go after records.
No. Well, I
Busch
think there's a height limit in Orlando anyway.
Exactly. And like SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, maybe Busch Gardens, Tampa, like the rumors, maybe a Giga, but they're not gonna. They can't build much higher than that. So it's gonna be really interesting to see like what comes, like where the industry is in 10 years from now.
How are we
Yeah.
competing internationally? And maybe this isn't something you track or follow, but like, are the Japanese building even crazier, faster things than we are?
I mean, right now the main hot spot, the melting pot for all the record breakers, is over in Dubai.
Oh, okay.
And Sifas Qadiyah in that area. That's where you have the world's fastest coaster. Now the new fastest and tallest coaster opening up. They just announced that they're potentially going to be building 1,000-foot tall coaster. It's wild. So like,
wow.
Do they? Japan, there's some really good rides there, but you have so many requirements for like the earthquakes and the support stuff.
Yeah.
So that costs more money, more steel. Japan, or sorry, China is a huge park. People, I honestly think it's oversaturated because I see some from time to time where parks are starting to close up, where it's not that busy. Because there's like so many mini parks where you have like a B&M and an Intamin, and then like a small kid coaster, but that's it. Like they're real small. And so it's interesting. It's like a different business model over there than it is over here.
Gotcha.
I mean, Europe, you're a little bit more, they don't really break as many records, but it depends what parks. Who knows what will happen in 10 years, but I'm all here for it. I'm excited to see what, the future holds for at least the U.S. parks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, as we're all getting older, have you felt any different feelings on the rides? Get any more motion sickness or stomach drop any differently?
I used to get I remember before I started the channel, I'd go over to Carowinds every once in a while and like lap Fury 5-6 times in a row in the morning. I'd be like, oh, I feel nauseous. I'm going to go get some lunch or something.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I'm just built for it better.
You trained it up.
And I don't do it very much because I have 2 kids now, so I don't really, but when I go on trips and stuff, like we rode Stardust 4 or 5 times in a row. I did get a headache because it was hot. I wasn't used to the heat, and I barely slept the night before, so that kind of ruined it for me as far as I wanted to ride more. But now I don't really ever get motion sickness. I know what I can handle, what I enjoy. I don't really enjoy flat rides that spin you upside down a bunch of times. I don't care. Give me on a coaster all day long.
How do you do on the simulators? You a fan? Because I mean, obviously, Universal had a huge pushback from people with all the simulator rides.
They don't bother me really. I mean, Monsters, I didn't feel nauseous at all. That's probably the most violent one. Other screen-based stuff. I mean, once I ride Simpsons, I ride it once, I'm done. I really don't, unless my kid wants to ride it, But yeah, I don't really. Luckily for me, I've never taken a medication at all for motion sickness on rides, so I'm good for now. At least, who knows? I turned 42 about 10 days ago. Ever since then, my back has been hurting. My shoulder hurt, ice in my shoulder about every other day. It's like, oh, I need to go to the pool. We have a community pool. I need to go swim in the pool and relax.
It's all hitting
I had
you
to be
all
on
once.
this podcast, so I couldn't do that.
I'll tell you, when you get, I'm 43, and you feel, I mean, some of these older rides, I can't even fit on Cheetah Hunt. I'm too tall.
Really? How tall are you?
I'm like 6'4", and it compresses. Like I can close it, but I have to like curve my back to do it, so it compresses my lower back, and it's a great ride. I would love it, but
that they need lap bars on that.
Yeah, I hate that over the shoulder.
100%, stupid.
Yeah, because I mean, all the big ones have that.
Trains,
right?
Stupid.
Yeah.
Again, it goes about the money. The parks warrant spending a couple $1 million on new trains. Will it bring in more people to pay for it? Probably not. Fortunately, it sucks. Some cases they do. Parks do this, but would they do it for Cheetah Hunt? I mean, I would love it, but who knows?
Yeah, they don't care about the people there. All right, so what we're gonna, before we get you out of here today, I pulled up, and I want you to critique this list. So I asked ChatGPT, what are the 5 best coasters in the United States?
Okay.
All right. So again, I assume you've been on all these, and you can add, or you can kind of rebut what this is. So number 5, it has Iron Gwazi. Okay. Number 4, Millennium Force. Number 3, Velocicoaster. Number 2, Fury 325. And at number 1, it has Steel Vengeance.
I knew that. Yeah, I've been on all of them. Their Millennium Force is not even in my top 25, I don't think.
Wow.
I like Millennium Force. It's just one of those rides that I just prefer other elements on rides than I like airtime, and you're not going to get much on Millennium. But as far as like now, if I was ranking my coasters based off like adrenaline, like the feeling that I get off the ride, then absolutely Millennium Force, the adrenaline, that drop. Oh my God, hands up. I want to get back on and get that music in the station. Like, give me
In the
more.
view going up the lift hill.
Oh my God, love it. But as far as my top 25 goes, it's definitely different than that. I like Steel Vengeance. What kills me about Steel Vengeance is the merge point for the fast lane. Like, it sucks. And even that regular line just crawls because of the metal detectors. And
Yeah.
it just, if that ride was better accessible and it wasn't so congested, it would be so much fun just to lap it. Get 2 or 3, 4 rides in an hour on. Like, that would be ideal.
Talk about back pain. When that was Mean Streak, that was the
Oh my God,
my back. Even when I was in my 20s, we'd have to get out and start doing stretching and do some yoga on the sidelines because it was so bad.
My first visit to Cedar Point was Snake River Falls opened up in 93.
Oh, yeah.
And 94 was Raptor.
Rest in peace, Snake River Falls.
I know every couple of years, every time they open up a new coaster, we'd go up.
Yeah.
But yeah, for my top 5, I would go. It was Fury, but I think Fury got knocked out. So I'm going to go start off from the top. That list of Chat GTP, yeah, it's decent. I'll give it down a scale of 1 to 10. It's about a 2. I'm going to go, for me personally, me speaking, my number 1, I think, is Velocicoaster.
Okay.
It was Iron Gwazi, but I got some amazing rides on Velocicoaster this past when I was down there 2 weeks ago.
The second part of that is phenomenal. I do love that. Yeah, after the top hat.
It's right up there. It flip-flops. The number 3 is a solid Air Force One. I love Air Force One. And then number 4 is Top Thrill 2. And then number 5 would be Stardust Green.
Okay.
So that's how I would. Then I have, after that, probably Fury, then Steel Vengeance, then Maverick.
I forget about Maverick. I like Maverick.
Maverick's great. I love Maverick.
I was sad when they took away the whitewater landing, though.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
I do love log flumes.
Well, come to Carowinds next year. We're going to be building a rather large one.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Busch Gardens still has one, shockingly.
Yeah, for now. Let's hope they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's. What about you guys?
I mean, for me, I'm a Cedar Point homer, and I haven't been there in a long time, so like the nostalgia has really crept in for me. But whenever I would go, I love Magnum. Like, that was my jam. I know it's not great or fun and it's painful, but
no, don't ever.
The nostalgia gets me. I do love Velocicoaster. I do also love Iron Gwazi. I did like, a lot of people don't like it, but I liked Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion.
I like that too.
I was there on opening day. I got a T-shirt. It was very exciting.
Nice. You wrote it like I did before they worked on reprofiling that first turn too.
Yeah,
so it was even more intense.
It was Blackout Central on that sucker.
Crazy! Oh my
god! Kevin, you weren't obviously in Virginia. They built this ride. It's based off of, it was themed to Dale Earnhardt, and they made it too intense. You literally blacked out, like unavoidable.
Normal, like people are like, "Oh my god, blacked out!" Don't worry, just keep on riding. But that's one of those rides where I can only ride. Now, I have not really been there recently to like lap it because I was there with my son who's not tall enough. So I've only had like 1 or 2 rides in a row. But that ride's hard to just to stay on a marathon because it just takes so much out of you.
Wow.
If it was, I would probably be comfortable riding it maybe 4 times in a row, within a 5 or 10 minute wait each time, and then I'll be like, all right, I need a break because it just does so much to your body of just.
I would just try to blink as much as possible, like stay awake, stay awake.
Yeah, pick yourself. You got this. Slap yourself. Yeah, it's definitely wild. It's a great ride.
All right, Brandon. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Main man Chad, great work as always, and be good.
Thank you guys.